Well, I get to interview one of my very, very dear friends today, Ann Fox, who is the founder of Creativity Lab and has spent her career thinking about creativity and bringing it to all sorts of different institutions, needs for solutions, communities, etc. And so I'm really looking forward to you meeting her. And thank you for being here today and for taking the time to talk about creativity.
Thank you, Vivi. Uh, and I'm excited to be here with you. Thank you for thinking of interviewing me about this. So I like to tell people that my interest in creativity started at birth. My mother thought she could read during labor, and she brought a book by Ayn Rand, who was a real popular author at the time. She spelled her name A-Y-N. And that was her, it was supposed to be Ayn, but everyone thought it was the creative spelling for Anne. And she wanted me to have something a little bit different. So I think that that sort of sourced my interest and in my life. And so when I got interested further professionally in creativity, and actually most of my application, my professional application, organizations and businesses and communities to come up with ideas for solution. But my main application is just how I live my life, to how to use my creativity when challenges come up and how to make it as fun as possible or as interesting as possible. And when I developed my business, I called it Creativity Lab because one of my favorite quotes is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's, "Life is an experiment. The more experiments we make, the better." So that I see when we're when we have a challenge or when we want to make something even better, why not experiment with it and experiment with different ways of looking? So that's a little bit of background there. Yeah.
Well, I can attest as your friend for many, many years and a group that we've been a part of for over 15 years, I think it's been, that your creativity is constantly an eye-opener for me. And so I asked Anne today if she would give some thought and have a conversation with us about maybe applying more creativity on behalf of the needs that we have in medical delivery in a safe manner. And Ann's been hearing from me for many years since my beloved husband, her friend, Yogi Rush Charles Bates, died in 2012. You've been hearing me talk about this conundrum that is present in the delivery of medical care, whether it's a hospital or a clinic or a long-term healthcare facility. All of these places and then some, not just in the United States, but around the world, are facing this incredibly challenging dilemma. The desire to deliver care, unequivocal care, which of course presumes safety. And yet what we know is that too many people, including the healthcare workers, the patients, and the family members of both the healthcare workers and those patients, are often faced with dilemmas that create an unsafe environment. And sometimes that can be devastating, either in a permanent loss of healthcare quality or even life. So, Anne, I would love to hear your thoughts about creativity in the realm of medical care delivery, and anything else that you want to talk about today. We want to listen.
Oh, good. Thank you, Vivi. So this is a real important question. And actually I'll use the word question. What I have found is that oftentimes people start brainstorming solutions when it can be most powerful for us to begin by brainstorming the questions. That sometimes when we have the correct question, it almost automatically comes up with some ideas for solution. And I'll talk about, in a little bit later, I want to talk about the questions and how we can best brainstorm the questions. And then after that, I'd love to talk about some of the ways we can get different perspectives to come up with, that some people have used to come up with solution. So for example, how like when you're saying delivering healthcare, to keep it delivering safety or getting people to pay attention to safety. So we want to brainstorm it. Sometimes just even changing a word can even be best. Like how to make the safety, delivering safety easy. How to make it in our consciousness. How to make it compelling. If we generate all of those kinds of questions, sometimes some ideas will actually just emerge from that. So actually, when I was saying and thinking in my mind about the consciousness, I was saying, oh, maybe there could be some meditation that people can listen to every day, that has that impacted in them, as an idea. So that you want to generate the questions, and there's several ways to generate them. So one is just what comes up top of mind, what I was doing. Then also, I encourage people, this may sound counterintuitive, to complain. Because what we find is that often the best solutions come out of the things that are disruptions. Look at what's happening with the COVID pandemic. The amazing creativity that the businesses are doing, the amazing creativity that artists and individuals are doing, and how they're living their life. Oftentimes, we just want to pay attention to what the complaints are. So I ask people to brainstorm all of their complaints. Nobody listens, nobody pays attention, or I just don't have the time, to do the procedures, those kinds of things. Just to see those complaints and then shift them into the very easy question is how to disrupt this, or how to manage this complaint, or how to respond to this complaint. So that's one way of coming up with the questions. And then the other is to imagine what the ideal state would be. A lot of people do that as part of a creative visualization. What would you love to see happen? And if you could just make it up, what to see happen, and get that vision of that, everybody doing safety, managing safety very easily and competently. So then how can we, and people can describe it, and then to start generating questions around how to get to that perfect state. So that's another way to do it. And then to see which question resonates most, to start coming up with ideas, or to try it on various different questions. So that's around.
I love all of those ideas, and I'm going to have to go back and review those and type them in so that people can really see in print those very practical solutions. I wonder if you and I might take one of those right now and just play with it as a form of example. Would that be interesting, or do you have more do you have another angle that you'd like to go in?
Well, actually, another way of looking at the questions too, I just wanted to mention this, is that to looking at it from different kinds of thinkers. So a lot of my work has been based upon the value of diversity and people's thinking, but sometimes we can access that within ourselves. So how, from a logical perspective, what can be done, or what are some questions from a more concrete kind of procedural perspective, from an emotional perspective, from a conceptual perspective. So those are I just wanted to mention those kinds of ways of looking at questions. But did a particular question pop up for you, Vivi, when I was just mentioning it?
Well, so let me see if I can remember. I'm counting 4 very specific suggestions that you're making.
Okay.
One is, and I'm not going to remember them in the same order, I don't think, but
right.
You'll fill in if I've forgotten. So one is to get emotional about it, and to try it on from many different perspectives, and one of those could be highly emotional. Another suggestion, very specific and practical suggestion that you've made, is to complain about it and just see what gets evoked from the act of complaining, which I think is a terrific idea. And often people will lead with complaint, and people will shut that down prematurely, in my view. And then you made another practical suggestion, which is just to see the end in mind, describe it really clearly and get really creative about what it feels like, looks like, is like. And then I think the first one you said is just really to change a word and ask different questions about it. So for example, not just how do we get safer, but how do we make safety easy, something along that line. So and was there another one that you want to make sure we remember?
I think but all of those kinds of perspectives can actually generate more of the questions, because we want to get the questions, and all those perspectives can be used to coming up with the solutions too. But that if we wanting to see which is the question that is most effective to come about. So there's something that I said there that you want to further on to focus on?
I'll tell you what I would love to do. I would like to take your suggestion of seeing the end in mind. And I would like to just maybe take 5 minutes of our time to just use that as an exercise, as a prompt for somebody who might be listening and might even want to take it to their team, their next safety meeting if they're a hospital administrator, or their next huddle if they are a clinician. And I have some ideas about an end in mind that I thought maybe I could just say, and then you could help elevate my own creativity around it, if you would, please.
Okay, and actually you can say it, and then part of that is just paying attention to what your authenticity is around that. And we'll see if I have some suggestions. The value that I always suggest is to, as much as possible, to 5 sense it, to see what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you might be smelling, or tasting, as much as possible. Yeah, so that's really the prompt for you. So, Vivi.
Okay, my prompt is use all 5 of my senses and to see. It's sort of like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. So I'm going to imagine being in the change. Okay, so here goes. And I'm going to suggest that I've got just a slight lag. It's very subtle, but why don't you put yourself on mute while I do a little bit, and then I'll put myself on mute to hear you. And that way I think we'll have a better continuity. So here's the vision that I've been seeing for some months now that I don't think I've ever described publicly. So this will be the first time. I imagine the delivery of medical care being so safely pervasive that it's like an Amazon delivery. So for example, an organization, a team of there's some elevation that becomes, it's very clear that it is a new safety protocol to put in place. So during this time of COVID, this is an excellent example of when a hospital comes up with a protocol that really does mitigate infections for that those healthcare workers who are coming into that environment every day. And they've measured it and it's working for their hospital. We have the Amazon quality delivery service of that information that gets spread globally and quickly so that other hospital administrators and care practitioners and those patients and their family members get the benefit of that information. And so what it looks like to me is electronic. It's a quick reservoir that is almost like what's something that's gone so quick, it's almost like a viral text, and it's simple, it's clear, it isn't yet proven, right, because it's only happened at one hospital, but it's been very effective there, and that it goes to where it is most likely going to be similar to that environment where it has been tested, where the experiment has gone well. I see people's faces lighting up that, oh my gosh, yes, that environment is a lot like mine. And these are really clear instructions for me to take to my next meeting. I see a small group of people looking at it. identifying that, yes, in fact, it's going to be a great thing that we can experiment with here as well. I see them going to do that in a really effective manner. I see them then contributing to that next iteration, that next package delivery that goes to that next organization. I'll just give one more example. And this is more of a physical example using my senses of the touch of a package. So let's say that I've discovered that there are masks over here, but there are not masks over there. And this quick delivery system catches on to where the resources are and where they aren't. And it immediately goes and lifts them up, puts them in a box, transfers them over to where they need to be. And then the delight and the surprise of those individuals that within 24 hours of identifying a need, the need is fulfilled. Oops, I've got too many. I only needed half that. You put it back up on the resource list. In 12 hours, it gets transferred over to where it needs to be. And that it's sort of like, the hybrid of, because I think you and I both have this background in supply chain and working with retail organizations and, those kinds of organizations that have figured out supply chain. It's sort of like the supply chain of both physical items, but also intellectual creativity and experiments that can move quickly. And then also when it doesn't go well, that we know that right away. There's transparency so that we don't keep perpetuating wrong knowledge. We stop it in its tracks. As soon as we see that there's an issue, we fix it, and then we keep it moving on. So those are some of the, I don't know what it smells like, but that's what it looks like and feels like to me and sounds like. You're still on mute, Anne.
Yeah, you got me excited. All right. So what you did intuitively is you actually using metaphors. I mean, you're using not metaphors, but using Amazon and supply chains as metaphors that oftentimes that when you have a challenge or a problem, that if you see how it is in another world solving it, and then to get ideas from that world to solve it, to help solve it. That oftentimes that comes up from the solution. A lot of people use nature for solutions, and hotels have used how bees create beehives, and as ways to have more room and more effective room. So though there's some ways of either getting information, but also then there are how-tos, is how to get Amazon to help you figure it out, or how to get, the technology. So you wanting to see other supply chains, is how to get a supply chain person to, create a program for that. So it comes up for different possibilities, either the questions for you to examine, or sometimes the solution might specifically emerge. So yeah, but do you see how, like, putting that out there, you start noticing what needs to be done in order to get there? Like, what are the kinds of issues? Is it a supply chain issue? It's a communication issue? It's a quickness issue.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I hope that's helpful. Yeah. Okay.
It is. Yeah. Thank you for pointing to that piece of it. And I want to start to wrap up, because I know people's attention spans, and you've already loaded this with some things that people could get busy on right away. Okay. I'm going to ask you two more questions. One is, would you speak just briefly to the notion of improvisation, of keeping ideas expanding before starting to get into the, well, that couldn't work because that couldn't work because. Right. Yeah. Sure, you have a lot to say about that, but if you could just speak to it briefly. And then the last thing I'll ask you to speak to, Anne, is, are there any specific tools that you would recommend or be able to pass along to anybody who wants to take one of these creative ideas that you've shared to their next meeting on behalf of medical safety or any other conundrum they might be trying to solve for?
Well, probably the tool, one tool that I found really useful, and it's around the expanding of the ideas, that oftentimes we find that the best ideas are born from the worst ideas. So oftentimes when people are brainstorming ideas, I have them examine, and I'll tell you the tool, the best ideas, but also the worst ideas. And oftentimes they cannot believe that the best ideas actually emerge from the crazy, ridiculous idea. And what I call it, I've started using the word ideas. If you noticed, I have a Eastern New York City accent, and people with New York say ideas, IDEARS. But I like to use that because they're dear and they require tender, loving care. So the tool is, we want to provide tender, loving care, TLC, of ideas. And the TLC is that you take an idea, and whatever it is, however great it is, however awful it is that you think, find out what's tempting about it, or what's terrific about it. What is a T? What's something that you would want to keep no matter what? And then the L is what's lacking. What would keep you from doing the idea? It's very, very simple. And then you want to say, how can I change the idea if there's anything lacking? A lot of times people don't even see anything that's lacking, or that they see something that's lacking and that they can fix it or whatever. And then just how can you change the idea so that you can keep what's tempting about it? So that's a very, very simple kind of thing, but it's really important to allow people say those crazy ideas. Oftentimes you want to create that climate for people to be able to say those ideas, because otherwise we want to be smart and we don't want to be laughed at, and just to know that those are needed. We need that. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. Yeah.
And this may be one of the most practical and immediately useful interviews that I've conducted on this Zigzag for Zero over the last few months. I am so excited to get this posted and to send it out to people so that they can hear your practical ideas and maybe bring it to their next meeting. I hope that many of the people who are helping create solutions for medical safety will use this, but I also know that this can be used for anything that we're trying to solve for, whether it is addressing disparities in healthcare, or just addressing how do we get back to school in September with, in the face of COVID, or whatever it is that is a person's conundrum. Thank you very, very much for taking the time today.
Good. Thank you. I love being with you. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been fun. And thank you for watching. I do hope that you'll get some practical use out of Anne's ideas today. And be in touch. Let me know if you do use some of this advice. I'd love to pass it back on to Anne. I know she'd like to hear about that as well.
Yes.
Take good care and have a great day.
Good. Thank you.